Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining the live stream. We're back with the football show. Can I start the show off by wishing everybody that is celebrating a happy Diwali for yesterday and a Nutan Warash Abhinandan for those celebrating the new year today. Hope you're all having an amazing time under the circumstances, but it's a big warm welcome to Nevin. Good afternoon, Nevin,
Hi,
to you. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. It's good to see you. It's been a few weeks. I've had to uh, focus my attention onto the one of the biggest tournaments in the world, but that's now over, and now I'm looking forward to a fantastic season ahead. How's the excitement building?
So the biggest tournament in India is just about to take place. So let's get this right. So it's just starting next week. So you have time. You're just building up for it.
Yes,
But
and
yeah,
I'm.
I mean, it was a very hectic and very strange IPL in a lot of ways because there was no crowd. So somehow I felt the connect a little, not there like it used to be. Because when Mumbai or a Chennai plays, usually it's like massive crowd. So it was strange IPL. I'm sure you know it better. You've been following it way better than me. But like
Yeah,
very
yeah, it
interesting
was,
days.
but it's like it's just good to have the sport back on. I think it was an amazing tournament. Really enjoyed it, and it was I think the I've got used to it without the crowds and watching sports without crowds here. So we've had a lot of EPL without crowds for a long time since the restart, and so I've got used to it. It's not the same, obviously. It does make a difference, but I think it's just a matter of getting used to watching the games, as it were. But it's good to see you in the Japan national team shirt. I know you've got a good collection, but at least
Yeah.
it's blue, so that's fine. But how's the past few weeks been? I know you've done a lot of travelling. Here in the UK, we're in
Yeah.
lockdown 2.0, so we're back to where we were. But how's it been for you?
Uh, I mean, it will be unfair to say that I've done a lot of travel. I actually went to the southern coast of Kerala. I was actually making a documentary on football. The football is quite active and vibrant there. When it comes to Kerala, people usually think it's the Malabar or the northern region of the state that plays football, but there's a lot of football presence down south as well. So I spent around 3 weeks with the football club. I was learning what is going right for them, what is going wrong for them, and just generally getting the idea of what can be done for football and what football means to that society. So it was a very eventful 3 weeks because you also stumble upon a lot of other stories about cyclones, about problems with fishing, a lot of communal issues with multiple religions having multiple problems, a new seaport being commissioned. So a port activity is going to affect fishing in so many ways. So it's not just football; it's a lot of other stories with that common connect called football. So it's a very interesting week, interesting 3 weeks.
And how is the football season seen there?
Oh, in fact, it was wonderful because there were a lot of mini tournaments with the same names as the ISL teams. So
All
we
right.
had the VSL, which is Vizhinjam Super League, and each team was given one name, one designated name. So my friends were playing for ATK. So there was another team which was Mumbai. There was another team that was Kerala Blasters, and they had an entire ISL within the local setup. And I don't even know if the ISL knows this is happening. That's the kind of impact of football the league has had in that area. So quite nice, quite nice. They even like made replica jerseys. They were very, very serious about the league.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing! And everybody can read about the articles I know on your platform. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, yeah. It's on Asia. Well, there is a subsection called Kalpanthu where we put all these Indian football stories. So everybody can go there, and the documentary should be out sometime next month. I'm planning to do it as a three-part documentary, so you can all watch that as well.
And that'll be on your Kalpanthu YouTube channel, yeah?
Kalpan. Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant, fantastic. Looking forward to that. It sounds like an amazing story that you've got there, and so refreshing to hear about the passion that's football has. But we know that about your state. It's very big in terms of the love for football. And how is the state building up to well, not just the state, but the nation in terms of looking forward to the next Indian Super League season? Is because I know what it's like when the season's approaching here. People are planning different things, looking forward to watching the football and having high hopes for their teams. How's the build up in India? Is it getting bigger every
Oh,
year?
I think it is. I think it is. I am like I think we've discussed this a little earlier. Is that I was pleasantly surprised with the transfer activity and the summer of transfers. I think this is the first time India's ever seen so much activity, so many conversations. It was a very vibrant summer where I think a lot of transfers were discussed. A lot of there were a lot of other discussions on whether ATK and Mohan Bagan merging is going to help. This East Bengal who's now made it to the ISL. So it was a very vibrant summer. But summer is summer only because we know that what is coming next. And finally we are here. So I was just looking at a lot of reactions to social media posts, and people are just like, finally, everybody says, finally it's here. And we've been waiting for it for so long. So it's here. And I think, I think just generally the excitement is on a high, because we've watched Premier League, we watch everything else, but having football in our homes back, so that's a big deal, right? I know we can't go to the stadiums, but at least it's happening in India. It's happening to our Indian players, so very exciting.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to my second season with yourself. And now that I've got a little bit of an inkling of how it works and some of the players and the teams, I'm really looking forward to the season, nearly as much as I look forward to the EPL season every year. But
I have to stop you there a little. I know last year I made you follow Odisha, saying they've got a blue jersey. They've come out with a black jersey this
I
time.
love
So
it.
are you like?
No, no, no. I love that shirt. I think it's got a bit of purple, and I know when we spoke to Rohan that make sure there's a blue. So, although I'm not seeing the second and third kits, I'll have to be honest. So hopefully he's going to sneak, or his dad will have enough influence to ensure there's a blue in there. But I do like the new shirt. I have to be honest. I think it's a
It's
nice
very
looking shirt.
vibrant, and very thoughtful of them to include local art, and I think that's a good way forward.
Yes, yes, absolutely, and hopefully very soon I'll get my hands on that and just show my allegiance even more. But in terms of the tournament itself, I know it was decided earlier on to have it in a bubble and have it in Goa in 3 stadiums, and this was decided a few months back. Do you think the situation, how it is in India now, that this is still the way to go?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no other way to go about it. I think we are far from being COVID free. Goa is, in fact, one of the worst affected. And if you look at the mortality rates and just the transmission rates, Goa is going through a really bad time right now. And considering we've opened up to tourists and everything else, it just puts players under more risk, and even the league under a lot of risk. So I think bubble is unfortunately the only way forward for the players. I know it's really hard mentally to be inside a cage all the time, and these are players in their best years of youth. They want to go out, they want to meet people, they want to do other things apart from play football as well. But I think for the next few months, I think they'll have to be really controlled, and unfortunately, that's the only way forward. But I think 2020 on and maybe even early 2021 is something that we've never seen. I mean, it's unprecedented, right? So unprecedented times call for strange and difficult measures, but that's the only way forward, unfortunately.
And do you think they will change it? I know they've released the fixtures for I think it's up to January. But do you think they're looking at the what the situation will be in January, then reconsider whether to carry on with the bubble? Because when you think
So,
about, sorry, go on.
yeah. No, no, please.
No, I was just going to say that obviously here the teams are playing at home. We've got home and away fixtures, obviously behind closed doors. Even international tournaments like the Champions League, Europa League, they're playing behind closed doors. We had some fans for the Nations Leagues in some countries. But I just think having a IPL in a bubble is fine because it's a shorter tournament. But having a full season in Goa, it's going to be very tough for the players.
I'm assuming they'll find some ways to, keep this relaxed, but I don't think they will openly declare it and cause, apprehensions, anxiousness, and all that. That said, when I did inquire about media passes, we've not been issued media pass for the first half of the season. So not even the media is allowed to attend the matches. So what I heard is that they will be reconsidering midway through the season just to see if media can be incorporated in the stadium and all that. So that means there is some thought, some meeting that's going to happen, say after January or like say mid-January or something. So uh, yeah, let's just wait and see. I personally don't think we should, change what it is. I think as tough as it might be, they'll have to deal with it. Maybe they'll be given a week where they can go out, and then be given another week where they'll have to do the test and something like that. I don't know, but since it's quite long, but there's unfortunately no other way forward. There's just too much COVID in the country right now to risk it, by opening up or just allowing the players to go.
Right. Yeah. But I think it will be very strange for the players because, like I said, with the IPL, you can understand that being a shorter tournament, but to have a whole football season, and they might have looked how it's working in Europe. I don't know about other parts of Asia. Obviously, the COVID situation in Southeast Asia is a lot more. Well, last time I saw it, it was a lot better than elsewhere in the world. But yeah, it's going to be a very strange tournament. I think come January after the players.
And
have been
I remember reading a few reports from NBA, and a lot of players did struggle despite NBA taking massive measures to keep them in a bubble and keep them safe and all that. So it is very difficult for players, especially. I mean, at least in Premier League, they didn't even get rest. It was for I think international footballers. I think it is a very hard time. At least for the Indians, they come really rested, and they. I mean, ideally you don't want to be away from family, but I'm just assuming that they can somehow pull it through.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out because obviously we've had the EPL here, and there's been some strange weekends where and we've talked about it. Incredible results, and the feeling now is that a lot of young players, are, because they don't have the pressure of either the away or the home fans. They're playing a lot more freely, so you're seeing a lot more goals. They're willing to take a few more chances. So we'll see how it works in the Indian Super League. But let's look forward to the season and start giving hope to all 11 teams that they can go out and become either the Shield winners or the eventual winners. And we've got to start with your boys, because you, once again, I think this was the case last year, I don't know about before, you can correct me, but you've got again the opening game and a huge one, and there must be a lot of expectations this year with the Blasters. You've had a big change, and we've talked about it in a previous show, but there must be quite a bit of positivity going into this big game against the reigning champions.
And against a team with Sandesh Jingan in it. So
well, of course,
yeah.
But I think being in Goa will make it slightly easier for him. I think going back to the stadium packed and seeing a sea of yellow. On that note, what sort of a reception do you think he would have got?
Mixed.
Really?
I don't think fans are really upset about it, because there's a lot of stories. And the most prominent story is that he was left so that he can go to play in UK and or any other country. I mean, I heard Germany as well. And that didn't really materialize due to COVID, and hence there was a better deal on offer from ATK, and that is why. So there's a lot of, I don't know what is the right word. It would seem like both the parties are trying to pacify the situation and somehow find a middle path. So I think whoever handled the PR of this whole saga handled it really well, with very less hatred towards Sandesh Jingan. I mean, I talked to other fans and they're like, yeah, it could be due to financial issues, so even the team wanted to move on. So strangely, it is nice. In my head, I would think it would be like the last thing, like it's the worst thing that can happen. Your captain just moving to your rival team, and this is one icon that you've had from season one to the last remaining icon. So that fellow is also left. So for me, it would have looked like a very bad deal. But I think in Kerala there is just generally a sense of positivity. The feeling is that the team is moving forward. They've made some clever signings, and in Kibu, like every year, there's a lot of hope. Hopefully, they can deliver. And I think the Sandesh Indian transfer deal blow has also been sort of lessened by the fact that Rahul and Sahal have sort of developed as young Kerala heroes. So to have like homegrown heroes also, evolve into a very big position in the team has also helped a lot.
And in terms of the expectations there, with the Blasters, with the huge fan following, it must be and with the Kibu coming in, with the experience he has and he'll be facing some of his players on the other side as well. But what do you think about the expectations, realistic expectations? And we'll go through all the teams here, but we're going to start with your boys of the Blasters. In how do you think the season will? What do you think you should hope for?
I think barring couple of teams like say Hyderabad and Northeast and perhaps a couple of say uh, I can't think of more other teams. But like generally, I think every team would be expecting a playoff berth. That's how it works in ISL. It really it goes down to how well your foreign signings perform. So if you look that way, I think say most teams have had like decent signings. Even Kerala has made some Vincent Gomez, Kone, and all those players are they bring a lot of expectations, and we also have this feeling that the front attacking trio of Nongdamba, Rahul, Sahal, all of them are also going to click. So obviously, I think the fans won't probably admit it. Fans will say, "Oh, this is a year of transition, and we don't have the same firepower like an ATK or a Bangalore or a Goa." Uh, but I think in their hearts, they might be expecting a playoff run, or at least to battle for a fourth spot towards the end of the season. So yeah, I think, and that holds for a lot of teams. I think in the short history of ISL, I think Bangalore, Goa, and ATK have established as fairly heavyweights. But I think apart from that, I think everybody else is going to battle for that. I mean, despite Chennai's success, I don't think they've sort of earned that category as any team yet. And again, they've had another season of transition. They've just changed a lot. So I think it's going to be a battle, and I think, to be really honest, Kerala should be expecting to get at least that fourth spot. It's not going to be easy. They're one of the teams that spend lesser, but the general feeling is that they've spent really cleverly. But again, you can sign X number of players from with X, Y, Z background. The whole idea is, can they perform in India in the particular situation? So we can only come to a conclusion after say 3 or 4 matches. We can at least know, oh, this foreigner is going to make a good impact. So till then, I think we should just hold our horses and just see.
Yeah, but you're giving them a bit of hope, and I think quite rightly, because you've got a great coach who's won titles in India. So I think that's a fair enough call in terms of a playoff hope. But in terms of, and we'll talk about ATK as well, and my feeling, just looking at the ISL, is that, and we talked about this last year as well, whether here we have the top 6, and you mentioned you've got the top 3 there now that are sort of the teams that you expect to be in the playoffs. So the other teams are probably fighting for the 4th position there. But do you think Mumbai City, with the backing they've got, the coach they've got now, and the players they've brought in from Goa as well, that they can be classed in that top 4 bracket, that the expectations they're the equivalent of the top 6 here?
Of course. I mean, they should be. In fact, a lot of preseason billing is them to be the favorites to win the title. So
wow,
a lot of hope and hope around that team, especially with City backing, bringing in Lobera, who's a established coach in the country. He's got his favorite players also to come to Bombay. So everything about it seems perfect. They've also signed Okbeche, like proven Indian foreign recruits, I mean, people who've performed well in India. So obviously they are there. I just don't see them in that elite category of three simply because they haven't really done it so far.
Mm.
So it's up to them to now perform consistently for the next 3-4 years to say, oh, we've made it top four now from the top three. I think Bangalore, Goa, ATK, the general feeling is that they will be there, and they've been there since Bangalore just came into the ISL and they've never looked back. And similarly, for ATK from season one, they've been performing well. Goa has had just one bad season, I think, but apart from that, they've also been a very dominant force. Partly due to Lobera, so he's got his chance to now create another dynasty in Bombay.
Yeah, I see a bit of similarity. As soon as you mentioned that, something went through my head about Mumbai City, and I can see the similarities with Man City. Obviously, they weren't in the top big league a few years back, but and they had to earn that right. But they're now definitely part of it, and I can see Mumbai City with the backing they've got, obviously of the City Group, and the coach and the players that they've got in, that they will become one of those top four teams. And I was surprised that you said they're the favourites already, because for me, from outside, from living in the UK, I would have thought ATK with the signings they've got, the amalgamation of two huge clubs, would be very strong favourites to retain their trophy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's no taking away from that fact as well. So ATK definitely because of how strong they are. ATK Mohun Bagan, sorry, and Mumbai because they've got the proper backing right now. And I think Goa because they've got a style that's really developed. So it's little interesting because they've got a new set of new coach, a new set of players. But what they have got in favor for in Goa is that they've got a lot of young Goans developing, and they've really managed to become a team for that region. So that's really worked out in favor for them. So I think these three teams for me are most likely to perform well. Again, COVID means you literally have a blank slate. Some team can just one person can turn up positive and really disrupt the flow. And so this year is a lot of confusion as well. But I think on paper, I think these three teams are really nice. I don't rate Bangalore the same way, but Bangalore are like serial winners. They just somehow eke out a victory, whatever the situation is. So that way, yeah, we've got a top four pretty much sorted there. But again, you're a surprises. Odisha fought for a top four for a long part last season and then just sort of faded out. This year, they've really invested big. They've got the likes of Steven Taylor and a lot of other Marcelino, and they've also got Onu back. So they've got a good team, and they've got a lot of young Indian players as well. So very interesting season developing, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Odisha and my hopes for them. And I was very confident until that I started seeing the squads of the other teams, and I think they're a very young team, and we'll talk about that in a second. I'll take your views on that. But just going on the Goa bit, and your confidence in terms of them carrying on the great record, because losing a great coach like that and losing a lot of key players, you think they can still? Because I have my doubts as to whether, I know that they're playing in Goa, so they're used to the environment and what have you, but the changes, you think they'll overcome those and keep on progressing?
Yeah, I think Goa's secret would be the Indian contingent. I think they've got a lot of players who can just be playing for India. And I think from what I know, there are a lot of good players also coming from the academy as well. So I remember seeing a little bit of, say, somebody like Xavier Gama last season. He was fast and he brought in a lot of attacking power. They signed Makan Chote, who I think is one of the most brilliant upcoming footballers. So he can obviously replace Jackie Chan in the right wing. They've signed Ishan Pandita, who's been playing outside. So a lot of people, have a lot of hopes on Ishan coming and, becoming a regular in India. And you also have the likes of Lenny and the core gang still there, Seritin. So I'm really excited to see what the Indians in the team can do. And like you said, they're playing in an environment that's really familiar to them. And they've also signed Igor Angulo, I believe, a Spanish forward, who's also apparently rated high. So I think they've got, they are a club with a vision, and they were also building a team to play in the AFC. So they've built with that in mind. So don't be surprised to see them perform pretty well.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, and obviously they're holding our nation's hopes in the first ever Champions League group stage. So I'm looking to supporting them in that. But it'll be good to see if the coach carries on in the tradition of seeing Goa playing that attacking, free-flowing football, and they've got a big game to start with. I mean, when you look at the first weekend, and obviously your boys with 80k, then Goa have got BFC, but I suppose you can't look at any of the friendlies because you can't judge. I know that quite a few friendlies have been played amongst themselves because they're just you can't read anything into them. But and BFC are one of those teams that's have a huge following. I've read interviews with their owner who seems to be clued on. They're building in the right way, and they always seem to be, and you've said it, they always sneak out a result, and they'll be there or thereabouts again. But there's a lot of pressure on them, despite all these big signings other clubs have made. That BFC fans will be expecting to be in the final, not just the playoffs.
I think BFC fans are a pampered lot. I don't think they've ever seen like. They've just had like the club just started, and from day one they've been successful. So they will obviously be expecting results, and they will obviously be hopeful that BFC can come back to what it promises to be. I know this is probably controversial. I'm not really convinced with Quadrat as a coach. So I don't think I was really pleased with what he did last season. It was for all the build-up of he was supposed to continue Roca's project. That was his job. He worked with Roca, and then he was supposed to continue, sort of make it better. But then you saw BFC play a very, long ball sort of football. So despite the whole Spanish presence, they were playing a very physical, they don't concede. That was their strong point. And they would just somehow get a goal, mostly through like a set piece and all that. So I wasn't really pleased with how Bangalore played last season. And so I was kind of surprised that they kept the coach, probably because they definitely know more than what we do. But I wouldn't have been surprised if he got the sack last season.
Really?
But he's here. Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're a pampered lot. So even what they achieved last season is not really up to their mark. So yeah, and it'll be interesting if he really develops. Probably he played that way because of the set of players that he had, mostly like really big, tall people who could do a certain thing. So this time they've signed a few interesting players, and hopefully they can, eke out or develop that style. And again, we keep going back to the Chetri factor. How long can he keep doing it?
Well,
so,
that was going to be. I'm glad you mentioned Sunil Chetri because I was going to ask you about him. Is he like what we have here in Leicester? That with Vardy, if Vardy's fit, he plays. And the team then has to play around the Vardy way, which suits us, and we've got the players to do it. Is it the same with Chetri, but he's at the different end of his career?
Yeah, I think Chetri's peak is over. Again, very controversial thing to say because he's still India's best player. So, but I'm just saying that his peak was, say, 2 years back when he was just whatever he touched towards turning into gold. He's lost a little bit of pace, which means he can't really drift into that left wing as much as he used to. I think his favorite position was to sort of cut in from the left and, go for a curler and all that. So, I think it's really up to the coach to really figure out how to play Chetri because he's the best number 10 as well. So you have to sort of figure out a way to get Chetri, but he's the best finisher they've got, like at least in terms of India. So you want him around the box because he will score a goal for you. So it's very interesting how he's used. I think they've signed a Brazilian called Clayton Silva, who will be expected to perform. Interesting, they signed Ajit Kumar, who can play, I think, left back position. I think he was playing left back for Chennai City, which means Ashik can finally go forward and play as a forward, as a centre forward, or as a left wing. So that means they've just opened up a couple more options going forward. And it's also a big season for, I think, Udanta, who was a letdown for me last season. He was just running and he was not really giving that end product. I think it'd be really interesting how Udanta, takes up this challenge, because otherwise I think he's in trouble. They might, field somebody young, say somebody like a Leon Augustine or somebody like that, who can bring in more dynamism to the. I mean, Udanta still got the pace. We just want some sort of an end product from it.
And do you think? I mean, you mentioned the way they play and long balls. Is that a bit harsh for them, considering the players you've just mentioned?
No, I mean, uh, I'm not against somebody playing long ball or anything. I mean, that's a team strategy, and they can do whatever they want with it. It's just that with BFC, you had expected a more fluidic style over the years. So to see them, become that team to just, somehow defend and just play a certain kind of football that's not really attractive was a little sad. So, but I'm hoping, I'm assuming Quadrat played that because of the players that he had, because of the situation he found himself in. He wasn't really happy with the forwards that he had at his disposal. Onwu was a big failure for them, and then he got loaned out, and then he performed well for Odisha. But that aside, they had like a problem going forward, and then they had to put somebody like an Ashik as a left back. They were chopping and changing too much. So hopefully we found out a good balance. Now they made their signings quite early in the summer, so I think they've had enough time to practice, and hopefully they'll get their act together this season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting seeing how they get on. And like I said, a big game to start off with. Obviously, it'll take a few games before we can start judging teams, but a big clash against Goa that will set their season on. We'll see what sort of a trajectory. But I'm just scrolling the points from last season, and the reason I've done that is just to talk about, and hopefully you'll start giving a bit of hope to the fans of Hyderabad. I know you've got friends all over the country, but I know you've got friends in Hyderabad as well. What hope can you give to that team that they won't finish bottom again?
Um, I think the truth is, I think once Roka was there was a slightly better set of expectations, because
Well, he didn't have a bad job offer, so you can't hold him. He had a pretty
exactly.
decent
So
job
that
offer.
also proves, yeah, and that's also proves that the kind of quality of coach that they had at their
Yeah.
disposal. So, I think they did make a few interesting signings. I'm still struggling to uh, get the name. They signed a good striker from FC Goa, Liston. Liston was a good striker. That I knew from my personal sources that FC Goa was really sad in losing Liston, because they thought he was, he was going to challenge somebody like Koro. So that was the kind of expectations that they had with him. So they signed him, and like I said, it really depends on how the foreign signings of Hyderabad are going to perform. I can sit here and like look at their transfer market record or see some highlight videos on YouTube and sort of say, this player is going to do this and this player is not going to do that. But like, until and unless they go ahead and like really do it in India, we can't really say it, right? So, but I mean, they signed Nazari, they've signed Subrata Pal, they've got Adil Khan. I think Adil Khan is still there. So
I would
um, they
Adrian
have
as well.
they have yeah. So they have the team, but I mean, if you ask me, I wouldn't place them in my favorites to challenge for top four. But again, since it's ISL, since it's really unpredictable, because there are a lot of new signings, and I don't know the kind of impact Roka would have had in setting up this team. So if he's had time to at least plan something and put forward a plan, then maybe they have got something going. But otherwise, I'm a little, I'm as confused about the whole plan.
Yeah, but I think when you look at, I was not surprised. I shouldn't be surprised living out here. But Subrata Paul, that's a big signing, and I think getting Santana as well, and the players you mentioned. There's a bit of hope there, and obviously Nasri from your team. They got over. So you've got to see how much of this is Rocker's planning, and how much of it will be implemented by the new coach. But just digressing slightly, one thing that caught my eye is India's love affair with Spain. and all things Spanish. And we've got 6 Spanish coaches, huge numbers of Spanish players. I mean, why? Is there something just because we're used to it, and I say we in India, the system and the owners and everything playing safe, that is Spanish is working. So for this team, so let's go with that. What is with the love affair of Spanish football and Spanish talent and coaching coming into India in such a big way?
So many answers to that question, because I pursued this story in 2017. I went to a lot of owners. I called them up and like, why are you so obsessed about Spanish? And what is the reason why? I mean, why are you, bringing all these Spanish coaches? I talked to coaches who were not working with ISL teams as well. Is that something that you tried to implement with your team? So generally, at the time when ISL was at least starting, the Spanish school of football is what everybody aspired. Everybody wanted a tiki-taka team. Everybody thought in India, with the kind of footballers that we had, especially from the Northeast, the way forward was to play a possession-based football. And the answer was somehow in Spain. It sort of like never hit us that, English players can also say, English coaches can also say, play possession football. I think it's mostly PR and everything else. The feeling is that that Spain knows the answer. The Spanish way is a thing forward. So I think it's partly that. It's also partly, and this is somebody related to Mumbai City had told me back then, is that a lot of these football clubs look at the second division of Spanish football as a potential place where they can get their footballers from. So that's a good place that a lot of these football clubs are constantly watching to sign players. So somebody like a Coro is slightly top level. One level below is usually the target audience. I mean, the target for Indians. So they're constantly monitoring that league, which also explains they would probably want a coach that can also come from that league and set the thing up. So it's a lot of these factors. It's also the generally as an audience also I feel, oh, we've got a Spanish coach, so we're going to play very interesting football. That general feeling is also very positive. Say, look at FC Goa, for example. We don't know the coach, but we are all very confident he's going to play a certain kind of football, and that comes from the fact that he's very Spanish looking, and he's very Spanish. So, and FC Goa has a history of playing a certain way. So we're just making a lot of conclusions there. I mean, he can come and play long ball football. I mean, like, wow, we didn't expect that. This general feeling is that Spanish football, Spanish players and Spanish coaches will bring a certain thinking to football.
Because there was an interesting couple of programs here about the Europe's love affair with German coaches here now. And they did a program on why all of a sudden all these German coaches are coming through the system and winning big trophies and going to big clubs, and just thinking that it's but at least with German football you can see the progression and the football they play. I was curious as to why. Is it affordability? Spain second division, for example, that you've given is cheaper to buy in compared to the German second division or the Italian second division. I personally feel, I mean this is a question that I asked the person in Mumbai City, and I asked him, like, don't you think it's just easy to get English coaches because they speak the language? I think most people in India are comfortable with English. So I just thought, why don't you just get coaches? So problem perhaps the initial teams that went the English route is that they went and like got big names instead of like really upcoming young coaches who would be fascinated by the project. That's probably where they went wrong. Instead of getting a David James or somebody else like that, you should have probably gotten young coaches with a good philosophy to come here and try their football at least for 1 or 2 seasons while they are also developing, and then they can go back. It's not like a footballer where playing in India is considered a huge step down. I think for coaches, especially early in their career, I don't think ISL is that bad. It's a good place to improve their CV. So sure, they would have been able to convince a few. Look, Owen Coyle came and played brilliant football. So
So it's not necessarily that not necessary that they'll bring a certain kind of football. And this is a coach that has a history of playing a certain kind of football, and he still came and adapted, and he became a very attractive football coach. So it's all about trying. I think the whole Spanish love affair has a lot to do with Spain national team success, Barcelona, Real Madrid influence, and just generally this feeling that they play a certain kind of football.
Well, that's really good insight into that, because it was something that stands out whenever you look at ISL and you look at the backgrounds of players and coaches. But I'm glad you brought Owen Coyle into the conversation, because you know the conversation I had with you and my thoughts when he joined Chennai. But what a latter half of the season they had, incredible, going all the way, and quite deservedly. But I was surprised. Obviously, you living in India would have had maybe an insight as to why he jumped ship and went to Jamshedpur.
It is mostly down to the contract issues and what Chennai was willing to offer, considering, and what Jamshedpur was willing to offer. I think it was partly that. I am not even sure if Chennai was entirely convinced of Coyle when he was being brought. Also, they probably brought him as a stopgap solution to that season. But like, I mean, considering what he did, if it was me, I would have thrown the contract open and just like sign whatever you want and just stay. But I'm sure Chennai has their own reasoning for letting him go. But like, one guy's loss is another person's advantage. So Jamshedpur has got a good coach, a proven coach now in Owen Coyle. I've been watching a few of these videos, training videos and all, and he seems to be a coach who seems to be actively involved. He's playing with them, he's scoring goals, and I mean, I think they look like a very exciting young camp, Jamshedpur.
Yeah, he will have quite a bit of pressure, won't he? Because Jamshedpur didn't have the best of seasons last year, but what he did with Chennai, the pressure will be him to repeat that with Jamshedpur.
I think the pressure would be lesser because the expectations with Jamshedpur isn't going to be that high. They've got a very exciting team. Like they've got young Narendra Galut there, a young set of a team. Aniket Yadav. So a few good players. They've brought Valskis from Chennai, so he's also got his target man. I think generally an exciting team. Probably not your favorites to go perform. They signed Jackie, so Jackie is going to put in those crosses for Valskis to score. But again, perhaps not the same level that you expected. You would have expected the Tatars, a big group in India, to invest a little bit more and get a few more players. It seems like they're sort of they've taken a very mellowed approach to this season, which means I think the pressure is not going to be so high on Owen Coyle. He can go really enjoy his football, play a couple of youngsters, and hopefully develop a good team there. And mind you, they did start really well last season. And then sort of faded away because they were really hinting on a couple of foreigners, and that sort of really didn't work out in the long run.
And what about his old team? I mean, they've surprised us again. They've gone not the Spanish way, but the last time they went the English way with a surprise. And you've given your reasons as to why Owen Coyle was there. Probably a stopgap, stop the rot, but he did much better than anybody expected. But they've gone with a Hungarian now this season. Chennai, I mean, their ending was beyond expectations, I'm sure, even for their own fans. Obviously, they've got a good record in ISL. If you were to compare with the expectations of the Blasters, where do you think the expectations realistically of Chennai should be? Should it be the same again, or a bit more realistic?
I think they've managed to keep a good set of players. I mean, I was a little, surprised that they let Valsis go, and I was also a little surprised that they left. I can't remember the fullback. A very good fullback was the right back was let go. So again, a very strange summer. Something about Chennai doesn't really offer a lot of confidence because it seems it's a little unclear. Sometimes you don't even feel that they're really serious about the franchisee. and then suddenly you have a good signing, and then you're like, okay, things are back normal. So the summer has been a little. I've seen a lot of Chennaian fans, take it to social media and say something as simple as, say something, please tell us that you're active, tell us that you still care about the club. So I think that's there, but the likes of Andrew Tapa, everybody's still there. Edwin had a good season last time around. Chante is there. It's a good team. It's a good first team. I'm really scared about the depth there. So it really depends on that. If they can get that good depth, and if the foreigners can perform, they've signed I think a defender called Sipovic or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just yeah, and
I
I
think
think he's huge. He's 6'6" something, and so I mean that. I think Fall was a good defender. I mean, Fall is a good defender simply because he also scores a lot. So if you're playing in the fantasy league, I think that's a person you would definitely want to see because he's huge. He's bigger than most players on the field. So anything in the air, this guy is like a favorite to win. So similarly, I think Chennai has also got like a few, strong and tall players. So you are inclined to believe this is the kind of football they're going to play. They're going to be physical and they're going to be more direct.
yeah, and Bosnians or anybody from that part of the Balkans is they're usually mountains. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Sipovic bullies the strikers of the other teams. But just I was looking at the players that are traded out, and like you mentioned, Valkis and JJ and Lucian, and so they've let go of quite a few players, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously they didn't have a good
I
start.
don't think I know there's Goen was a fan favorite because of his experience and all that. But like having watched a lot of Chennai games directly last season, I thought he was a liability a lot of times. He really lacked pace and he was jumping into tackles all the time. Somehow scored crucial goals and somehow led the team to where they were. But like I don't think he'll be missed so much. Maybe as a captain and as a leader, yes, but not as much as a player. And again, JJ was always going to be a risk. We don't know how well he is going to make a comeback and all that. So I don't think those players are going to be missed so much. But again, let's just watch what's going to happen.
And now just talking about the three clubs we haven't, but very, I don't want to say quickly, but in terms of Northeast United, considering where they're based, you'd think they'd have a brilliant squad of local players because the talent we know is so huge there. Why do they not perform considering where they're from? Is it because financial support and what do you think of their upcoming season? I know they've got a new young coach, so what do you think about Northeast?
Again, not amongst the favorites to make it to the playoff for me. But again, they've signed a few good internationals. They've signed somebody from, I think, Portugal, from Belgium, from Australia. Okay, I might be wrong in one of these, but and somebody from one of those African countries as well. So they went really diverse. They've not really taken the Spanish route for the team. I remember since there was no big Spanish signing, I remember noting it down at that point. They have good players. They did sign a couple of players. The two Malayali players from Mohan Bagan went to Northeast. So Suhair and Brito both have now gone to Northeast. So they're going there as I-League winners. And generally, again, the thing is I can't really pick out Indian stars from that team. And you can't really win a title without having really good Indian players. So from that Northeast side, who's going to make it to the Indian national team? I can't think of any. So that is going to be a big problem. Like you can't just rely on your foreigners, and mostly foreigners that would not play in India. So that is why I don't rate Northeast so much. Like you said, considering where they are from, they should be doing way more. Like I would say
local more, shouldn't they?
Punjab. Yeah, I mean Minerva Punjab, when it was Minerva Punjab back then, was doing way more in the Northeast than actual Northeast United. They had really good, scouts. They were doing a lot of more camps. So something that the management really should look at, because I remember early days of ISL. That is something that John Abraham really stressed on that that's what he wanted to be and that's what the club should be. They have not really gone out and done that.
Yeah, it is strange. You think they've got a huge talent pool there they could tap into and build a localism like some of the Spanish clubs did even until a few years ago. They only had players from that region. I think that would be a really good unique selling point of the team if they had a really good core of local players, because we know the talent's there and I think they're missing out there. But it'll be it's interesting to see how they get on in this new up and coming season. One team we haven't, two teams left, but the one I want to speak about is obviously my boys, Orisha. Thanks to you, I'm supporting them. We know the story that you gave me a choice, and luckily I chose the right one. We've talked about Orisha in previous shows, so we're really happy with the signings that they made, young Indian talent, and I was really confident, going into the season of looking forward to a playoff challenge, which is I think realistic. But then I started looking into the top four, and I think it's going to take some beating to get into the top four.
It is, but like this would be one team that you would put your money on to be the dark horses of the tournament, right? Like they've retained the core set of players. They've brought in experience in terms of Steven Taylor and Marcelino and likes, and Onwu played really well for them the second half of last season. So, I mean, why not? They've got everything ticked. Even the likes of Vineet Rai has got now competition in Toy Singh. So that's like competition for all the roles in that team. So I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, I don't want. Rohan, sorry, but like I still want Blasters to be getting that playoff position. But definitely, I think this is a very exciting young team, and especially as a Indian football fan, I think we would be sort of supporting Odisha, because you're really hoping the next set of Indian footballers come from this team.
Is that right that they made Steven Taylor the captain?
Sorry?
I don't know if I read it right, or even if I read it, or I've just made it up. Have they made Steven Taylor the captain?
I think so. I mean, I've also been just seeing social media posts and all that. I think he is said to be the captain, and it makes sense, right? Like,
I actually remember him playing for Newcastle, and I thought he was a brilliant player. Really gave you 100%, and really tough player. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he performs in the Indian Super League. I think obviously.
I remember, I think season 3 when Kerala was captained by Aaron Hughes, and I remember, I think he's one of my favorite captains because he was entirely professional and he was doing the right things. He was guiding the defense. It's like say how Thiago Silva has come into Chelsea defense and sort of sorted things out. The talent wasn't missing, but you still require a captain who would know what the position is, who would know what the coach wants and all that. So I think hopefully can bring that for the Odisha team.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's underestimated how important getting the right captain is, because on-pitch management is really important. Reading the game, and because the coach can't influence once he's put the team out, he can shout and scream as much as he likes, but it's the captain that can really have quite a bit of influence while they're playing. So I think that's a very good, if that is the case, and hopefully I've read it right, but he'll make a brilliant captain. Like I say, when I remember him watching him play for Newcastle, he was outstanding. The commitment and the passion and never die spirit that I remember about Steven Taylor. So I think it was out of the blue for me, but I think it's a really, really good experienced player to have in the squad to nurture the young team, because it is a very young team. And I'm still hoping for a playoff place. We're going to have a big game to start off with against Hyderabad. Not going to call any games yet, because you don't know how these and it's a new environment. Absolutely. In the bubble, so it's no point predicting how the opening fixtures will go. We'll start doing that after 6-7 games maybe. But in terms of the new boys, obviously there's no relegation or in the ISL this year, but whenever any team comes up from the championship into the Premier League, they're usually the favourites to finish bottom or in the bottom 3. But I don't think that's the case with East Bengal. and the big signing of their new coach that they've made, they're obviously expecting to be challenging, I don't know, playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the least they should expect. But again, it's early for Fowler and Co to sort of it's not like they've had a lot of time to like sit down and study India, analyze, and I don't think they've had a lot of say in terms of signings as well. So most of the Indian signings were done and dusted by the time that they came in, and most of those Indian signings were also, I feel, made considering they're going to play in the I League. I mean, sorry if I'm wrong here, but like you had like so CK Vineet being signed, Saraj Singh being signed. You just got the feeling that they weren't really signing top players. They were just signing experienced players who could probably see them through an I League, but not necessarily an ISL. So they've got a lot of a big squad. They've actually got a very big squad because they signed a lot of players. Half of them they had to sort of cancel the contract. There's a lot of controversy around that as well. But like I don't know who's a young player who's going to stand out for. Uh, so I know somebody like Chulova is there, who's a good fullback. But I don't know who is going to be that, couple of young players. I think Rana Garami is part of the team. Rana had a good time out playing in the I League qualifiers as well. So, but like this generally, I feel they don't have that young core of Indian players. They've got the older set of people. Now, I'm not writing them off. You look at teams like Juventus, and they've always had like people in their 30s come and really perform well, especially in the past. So, I'm not writing anyone off, but do you really trust somebody like a JJ, CK Vineet? Even Lindo is part of the team. I think Narayan does. Milan Singh. They're not really. They're all great players, but probably past it. I think Vikas Jair was also there. I would really put money on them winning the I League. But now that they're in the ISL, it's different. So, very interesting. But I would really want them to be successful simply because that's like a good story, right? These guys aren't done and dusted yet. We've got, more in our tank. So that would be a very interesting story that way. But
Yeah, I
again,
mean,
doubtful.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And it's just interesting. Obviously, the EPL, all the fixtures are. They put in some sort of formulas to ensure a couple of things, like some teams want to play at home on Boxing Day and things like that, but it's computer generated. Are the fixtures in the IPL, sorry, Freudian slip, in the ISL computer generated? Because how else do you get the first game for East Bengal to be against ATK?
No, I'm sure it's planned manually. How is that every year that Kerala Blasters and ATK are going to play the first match? It's obvious because Bengal and Kerala represent the biggest audience, so they eventually. I for one would have wanted ISL to go a different route because let's just show that we care about other teams as well. So even the last year, I think I remember a couple of Chennai fans saying that they only got like one match in a weekend. Every other match happened during weekdays, while Kerala and ATK got most of the weekend slots. So I mean, yeah, of course, there's a lot of there's a lot of favoritism there, but I would have wanted, say, growing markets like, say, Bangalore is a big market, Chennai is a good market. Now East Bengal, ATK, now that's a huge level. That's another level. You want them to be helped in some ways as well, and not just keeping on, promoting Blasters. And because Blasters match, I think whatever day you put, they're going to watch. People are going to watch. So.
Yeah, but it's good to see a full stadium. A sea of yellow always looks good on TV, rather than a small stadium with not the same impact. But yeah,
that's also part of the problem in India because we have humongous stadiums.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that really doesn't help. We should have just. I think that way. I think it's a big loss that we don't get a lot of matches at Trans Stadium in Gujarat because that's a good football size stadium. That's
Yeah.
10 to 20,000 is a good crowd. And that can be really filled also in on most days. That is, good matches would definitely get filled.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking of how I'm going to watch it because I've invested quite a bit of to ensure I can catch the upcoming Super League as much as possible. But I was disappointed to see that East Bengal 80K is a 2 o'clock kickoff on a Friday, so I'm not sure I'll be able to catch that because I was looking forward to watching that, see how that goes. Even without the crowd, it'll be a first experience for me. So, but
maybe you can just put it in your phone, just somehow.
yeah, I'll have to see how I can do that. But no, I'm really looking forward to it because Rohan didn't. I think I did ask him to ensure that we get coverage here like we did at the start, but I don't think he managed to do that. But I've managed to get some sort of screening, so I'll be able to watch hopefully a lot more games than I did last time when I had to rely on YouTube videos and what have you. So really looking forward to even more football. But talking about the ISL, it's been really good. Really looking forward to the season. But I can't and this time it's flown more than ever. Talking to you, time does fly. But I can't go without sharing this. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm sharing the current table as to how it looks in the English Premier League, and it's something I look at every morning for the past week or so, and I can carry on looking at it for the next week. With the mighty Leicester City leading at the top. We've not talked about it for a couple of weeks, but your boys also, they seem to be getting their act together. German players are now scoring quite freely, so you should be happy as well.
Yeah, I think more than the scoring part, I'm just happy that Chelsea are not conceding cheap goals. I think they haven't been in the last few matches, so that way it's been interesting. And unfortunately, I took off Vardy from the team during that time, and Leicester had a lot of injuries. I thought, no, maybe Leicester's not a safe bet. And ever since that, they've been really performing well. So I'm a little sad that Leicester had to wait till I took Justin and Vardy and everybody else from my team to I went the Everton route sadly, and Everton's not been since.
Yeah, they've gone down quite a bit. I think the loss of I forget the player. I think he was crucial to them, Richarlison, in terms of the start they had, and the goals haven't just come for them. But no, we had a really tough last week, and we had a really tough game away to Leeds. We played Braga in the Europa League on Thursday, and then a tough home game against Wolves, but we managed to win all three. So it was a very good end to that before we went on the international break. And like I said, I'm hopefully really enjoying looking at the table at the moment. Still early days, but it's always good to see your team at the top. And we've got big players coming back. As you know, we lost. But one player, I don't know if you've seen him, is the centre-back we bought from St Etienne, Fofana. For 30 million. He looks a bargain at that price. Incredible start he's had to the season. He's just taken over from Soyuncu. We're not missing him. So it's looking good in terms of when we get our players back. And obviously a big game next Sunday. We're at Liverpool. So we'll see how they got on. And
I hope Leicester wins.
Well, I don't know. I mean, as you know, Trent might not play. Obviously, Van Dijk's out. Gomez is out. Salah's tested positive, so he should be under quarantine. So, but it's Liverpool, so we'll see how that happens. But it's a good time to play them. But fantastic.
But again, the likes of Jota and everybody are also hitting form. So.
Yeah, and somebody I work with is a big fan of Wolves, and I was surprised when they let Jota go, but he just wasn't producing it against Nunes, and Nunes is having a few problems now. I think the media love affair with him is going down slightly.
Fading out. Yeah.
It's all with Bielsa at the moment, but we put a spanner in the works.
I think that's also going to slide.
Yes.
I think that's also sliding.
Yeah,
it's not been really.
Ancelotti also had it. Brendan's not had it yet, but we don't mind if it doesn't come, as long as we keep performing. Nevin, it's been absolutely fantastic again speaking to you. Really enjoyed it. Really looking forward to the season. Do you know, I had comments last week on the IPL show. When's the football show coming back? People are actually missing it, so that's always good to hear. So we're back, and hopefully we can build on this live stream. But have a safe and enjoyable week, and looking forward to speaking to you once the action kicks off. Thank you, my friend.
Bye bye.